Hello, everybody, and welcome to Crushing Comics. I'm your host, Crisis with a K, and we're here with a brief episode to talk about one specific part of Dawn of X, and that is mutant fashion. Jonathan Hickman has talked about how all of the characters in Mutantism are kind of going through their whole closets of outfits, and that's why we're seeing artists basically take the liberty to draw whatever their favorite version of that character has been, which made us ask ourselves, what are our favorite mutant looks? So I'm joined here by my compatriots in X, Fariha and Tyler, and we are here to just talk about our top mutant fashions. Let's begin with
so
Fariha.
Excited.
I know you're all about this.
I'm all about this. I'm like that designer guy. What's his name?
Jumbo Carnation.
Jumbo Carnation. I'm like, Jumbo Carnation. I'm all about fashion, you guys. All about fashion.
So let's start with a DOX favorite, and then like maybe we can come back around and kind of talk about all-time favorites.
Okay. So my DOX favorite, and it was very, very difficult because I actually have three, but this I had to kind of choose between all three, is Emma Frost.
Okay.
The one that she it's kind of like a white neck. I think it was in the issue of Marauders 1, the cover of Marauders 1, with the kind of cape and then the necklace. It's like, because she's like the most abused character in terms of fashion. I think people like to draw her pretty much, naked. And I really don't like that, because not only that, I mean, I understand that she's all about using her sexuality to get things done, but the thing is, at the same time, it just too much exploitation. But this is like a perfect balance. This is like, and Jumbo Carnation did a good job, because he's the one who is dressing her, and it was perfect balance of what she is. It's like, like all her aura and everything, it just captures it so well. I love it.
I think something that gets lost with her is that people want to get her into this like S&M bondage kind of looks. But it's like, yeah, she does go a little bit that way in terms of fashion, but really she likes to exert control and influence. And she is high fashion. So like control and influence isn't always about a bustier. It's not always about a whip. It's about looking expensive and intimidating. And I feel like they've actually nailed that in Marauders. I love the cover of her and Shaw, where she's got that like fur neck to, so cool. And so I think all the artists on the title have been doing an amazing job of like doing actual fashion instead of just S&M gear. I don't know, Tyler, Emma, would she make your top list?
She didn't quite make the top list for me. Yeah.
Aww.
So for me, my favorite redesign of a costume in DOX era is Captain Britain.
Oh, I considered that. Tell us why.
I don't know. I really like it because she's in armor, yet she's also a little bit feminine. And the fact that she's in armor, well, because she's Captain Britain is one thing, but it also sort of calls back to her time in Australia, where she was, she really just like, I'm not physically invulnerable, so I need to protect myself in a fight. So she created an armor for herself. And they also bring in her color, like her purple color, influence into this whole new Captain Britain armor. And I kind of also like, it's a small thing, like the flower, like in her ear, that thing. So that's sort of, it is my favorite right now.
I notice a lot of the same things about Captain Britain as you do, Tyler, because I think, it definitely is a callback. People who remember when Betsy first joined as Psylocke in the X-Men, starting from 213 in that great fight with Sabretooth, she's in this kind of like semi-body armor, and then later she has like a cape and a hood, and it's because she's a pretty mushy character. Like before they turn her into a ninja, she has no physical defenses. So I think it's interesting that even empowered with the power of Captain Britain, which clearly gives her some extra protection for herself, that it's like a little bit of a callback to remind us that she's in the original body.
Mm-hmm. And I also kind of like what you pointed out, that she's in an armor, but at the same time there's like a feminine touch to it, because I feel like that's a balance a lot of artists forget, that you can do both. It's not one or the other. It's not like, no protection whatsoever, just running into the battle and then or being in some gear that you're like bulky gear like that. You can do both, and I think Captain Britain, as you pointed out, does do that.
And that women's armor can have femininity to it without having giant armored bosoms. You know, like that's like it's practical armor. It doesn't have like obvious weak points, right? Not everything has to be a cone bra, you know.
Like
right.
Even like Rita in Power Rangers, that was I had so much thoughts about her physiology growing up. Like I was kind of scared that if I am heading that way, like trust me, you don't want to do that to girls. Like don't put that image.
So Peter, what's yours?
I really thought about this hard, and I went through a lot of issues, and I picked one that in a way might disappoint you to a little because it's not a uniquely DOX look, but it's a look that I've come to appreciate more in DOX, which is Magneto in his resplendent white outfit when he's wearing the helmet. Now, it's definitely the look that he had from Marvel Now with the lines on his body, but they had him bald at one point in Marvel Now, and then for a while he wasn't wearing the helmet. And looking at it, I was thinking like it's practical, but I also went back and looked at the old Magneto costume that we all know and love so well. And he's, it's like the purple cape, which is definitely this regal royalty thing, but he's like in this weird red suit with his little purple underoos. And it's like, what is that? Like, why is he wearing that? Why is that his color? Why is he in red and purple? And we know it's because that in the Silver Age, villains had purple. Like that was just the way that they denoted villainous characters. That's why Hulk was sort of almost like a anti-hero because he had secondary colors like green and purple, even though he was kind of a hero. But I just think that this white suit Magneto, it like really is a better representation of who he is and his like constant purity of purpose, even if he gets things wrong. And it just gives him so much visual impact on the page. There's certain colors in comics that really pop. I think pink, bright pink in comics pops a lot, which is why I tend to like Psylocke. And white pops because it's ink that's not on the page. And I think that that's why Emma Frost and Magneto are like really powerful, more so than Xavier just in this black costume, some of which the nuance gets lost. Even in modern printing where you can have a strong black, if this was 20 or 30 years ago, Xavier's costume would look blue to us because they wouldn't print that much true black on a page. My hair, Fariha's hair, they would all be blue, just like Wonder Woman's classic hair, which is usually blue. So Magneto, I've just come to really appreciate, and I think if we were to move him back to any previous Magneto costume, the giant M, the purple underoos, I would actually be really, or I think he was in black at one point, I would be super disappointed. To me, now this is what Magneto looks like. And Dox has like sealed it for me.
Because he has all three costumes hanging on his wall as well.
Yeah.
It's like, white is good for today, and he's just like white.
And we saw like many of like Magneto's flaring his costume, I think, throughout DOX. Like, especially in like Hoxpox, there were like many times that Pepe Larraz drew him drew him so well that was like his cape flowing was the centerpiece of the page, and not to mention the luscious white hair.
Oh, he's got this. I'm gonna probably go silver at some point so I can get my hair to turn colors again. I just don't mean naturally. I think right now this would make great Magneto hair if it was just.
It will. Like it's just like like talk about sexy grandpa.
I'm trying to remember as him after I get my hair dyed.
I'm trying to remember if Joseph has like luscious hair.
Joseph hair is like stringy. It's like long and plain. It doesn't have body like Magneto's hair.
For some reason, Magneto's hair speaks to me. I don't know.
Me too.
I don't know. It is because like Zach kind of pointed it out to me, but who still, we're working on resurrecting him. But it was just like he pointed out, like I would have that the most powerful mutant has a luscious white hair. I can't stop thinking about that since then. So just kind of keep remembering that.
So now we're going to go around, and I think we all have a few favorites that predate DOX. It's not necessarily the main thing they're wearing in DOX, or it might be an older costume that's come back for DOX. But who are some of your all-time top mutant fashion icons, starting with Fariha?
So this one is kind of most of a wild card, and it's not necessarily a fashion, but it pretty much because of what he does to his costume or like to his get up. It's actually not even a costume. It's Quentin Quire's t-shirt. So I am a firm believer that those words written on it is what he's projecting in your mind. Those are not real.
That's so clever.
I am 100% confident because no one prints those unless he has a t-shirt printer at home. You can't find these things. So, and why he would do that, he doesn't have time for this, but he's definitely doing that. The one that killed me is like in Wolverine and X-Men, Wolverine takes them to Savage Land to kind of teach them lessons. And his t-shirt at that time read, "I love SL like I love New York." You know, that same New York one. And then depending on if he's in front of Wolverine, his shirt says Cyclops was right. And if he's away from Wolverine, it says Magneto was right. And then this time I think it was in Empire X-Men. No, Empire X-Men.
Oh, Empire.
It says
so I'm with Stu. Yeah, I thought I remember something like that. Yeah.
And on the cover of X-Force #1, he has the shirt that's all the original names of the X-Force characters, Nathan and Nina and Gavid and Tabitha, and which I think was a joke that our friend Thomas made on Twitter originally. Maybe I'm thinking of the other and style shirt. But I love that it's like this constant in-joke because he is a character who's like a commentary character.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I'm 100% confident that those are not printed there. It's something that
it's all a mental image.
Yeah.
So yes, he's always wearing just a white t-shirt. So he's always wearing just a white t-shirt.
It's just a white or whatever color.
And if the artist doesn't remember to put words on it, it's not an art goof. It's him forgetting to project. That's a no prize winner right there. Let me tell you.
Because that's exactly how I think it is. Because there are a situation where it said one thing in one location and it said the next thing in this next panel. I'm forgetting where it was, but there is a situation like that. That's when I've been thinking, that's what he does. Like it's just a projection. And then the one that I always kind of liked it. I have not read those books yet, but I know of this is Punk Storm. Like, her whole get up.
Punk Storm is one of the all-time great X-Men costumes.
My God. It's like, I only saw it and I think it's Claremont run, right?
Like, starting somewhere in the 180s of Claremont.
Right. Like,
it's Claremont and Paul Smith.
Yeah,
I'm Romita Jr. by that point because it's after she loses her powers.
Oh, okay.
No. It was after she got impregnated by the Brood.
You're right. And then, that happens first.
Yep, that happens first. And then when she came back, and then she's like, I feel I lost my connection. And then she went to Japan and met this, what's her name? I forgot her name. Yeah, Rikyo or something. Yeah, Rikyo.
We got to get Free to read it. Free, this is classic, best of all time comic books.
And then she basically stabbed Callisto and just walk away.
Some of my favorite comic moments of all time.
So, I mean, I am just super stoked to just read it just because of that, like, her get up and everything. And I think Kate Pride, like, she didn't like it. There's like a whole talk back on that, like, so the thing is, like, I'm super excited to read this, but the thing is, like, that character design, like, entirety of it is like so good, and she looks so awesome in it.
All right, Tyler, who are your all-time Hall of Fame?
Mine is a little bit more boring. I think I don't have like a good explanation like Fariha has. Is Jim Lee's Rogue. That's why I'm wearing a jacket now. I mean, I just think it's really awesome. Well, also the other thing is that, like, I grew up in Singapore where the weather is like hot and humid all the time. There's no seasonality. I never owned a jacket until I came to New York. Never. And so, so when you see his characters wearing jacket, it's kind of cool. And it's kind of a motorcycle jacket. And it kind of makes sense, right? She's flying really fast. So she kind of have some kind of like protection against the weather. Assuming that her skimpy, well, not skimpy, her skin tight like costume is not that temperature proof.
Rogue is actually, the thing is, go ahead, Fariha.
No, I was just saying that to Tyler's point of a jacket being cool, as also an ex-Asian, like, or someone from the Asian country, I can tell you that, like, jacket was like one of the coolest thing I've ever seen because I could never wear it. So when I was moving to Canada, I actually custom made 4 jackets because I'm going to be wearing jackets, y'all. Like, and then when I came, I'm like, oh my God, there's so much nicer jacket. Throw this out. And oh my God, now I have a closet full of jacket, jacket.
Yeah. I love that this is what we get from this like international crew where we've all lived in different countries where like these are things that I would have never thought of before, but now I think of because I live something different. Rogue is actually, I couldn't decide between Rogue and who I chose, although my choice won't be surprising. Because I love that Rogue's outfits are actually really functional. Like she doesn't want to touch people. And at first, if you go back to original villain Rogue, it's like shorter sleeves a lot of the time. And she wants to be able to take off her gloves because she's an aggressor. And then it goes to where she gets more and more covered up until we get to like the leotard era. And then even in that costume, she has gloves she can take off, but it's meant to totally cover her as much as possible. But then over time, she's come back to a more she has more like bare arms and gloves because she controls her power more, not because she's an aggressor. And I really like the more modern Rogue look that's got the mini skirt over the tights because I just think that it actually calls back to her original look, but it shows that she's in control now. So I love that Jim Lee costume. And sometimes I look at it and I'm like, is it a good costume really? Or is it just like 90s show off her TNA? But I actually do think it's maybe the best costume of that entire Jim Lee redesign is Rogue's.
Yeah. So that would be my first choice. And, my second choice is also kind of, it is also a Jim Lee design, but that has less functional and more like, oh, it looks cool. And that would be Cyclops.
With the asymmetrical.
Yeah. And without the head cover, like, without the ball cap thing going on. So he's just like his visor.
Awful.
Yeah, I like him better when his hair is showing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And to be honest, I felt like those ball cap just made him more and more depressed because his head was getting depressed. And that's why we get the smoky Cyclops. Like, I don't like Cyclops, you guys. Now that they don't have it, it's like free. But the thing is, like, we need to do something about the underwear situation though for Cyclops. So as a commanding officer, come on.
Why is it because they're all dance belts? Like, is it purely to hide bulge? Is that why Magneto and Cyclops and everybody has underwear on the outside that it's got like a dance belt built in to give them a nice smooth package and so that it doesn't show anything? I don't know. These are the questions we ask on this channel.
Also, like, his abs are always like kind of like so defined and everything. So it's like, so what is that? Are you padding or is that real abs? I don't know.
But that brings me to like a point which I kind of like, which someone made. And I'm just like, stealing. It's like someone said Paul Smith draws a good character wearing clothes. Like, so it's like the guy really wear a t-shirt or wear a shirt, right? You don't see all the definition, like all the well-defined muscles,
right?
Because he's wearing something.
And it's fun to see comic characters in plain clothes. I think that's why a lot of people like the like baseball diamond issues of X-Men, not because of the baseball necessarily, because it's fun to see what characters wear are not on a mission.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I thought long and hard, and I had a top 3. Rogue was in my top 3, but I have to go with my girl Dazzler. Because would you just look at this?
Disco Dazzler.
I mean, not just this though. For me, it's like all through the ages. So here she is, like in this. Now, keep in mind, this was she debuts in 1980s. They didn't know that disco was going to crash quite as hard as it did. And I love the whole Dazzler story. We could get into it some other time. But just the open lapel and the roller skates and the way it flares out and then the face makeup. But the thing is that Dazzler actually transforms through the ages really well. Then we get this. I don't know why I'm turning around this way.
The leotard.
Yeah, then we get the leotard, which is very 80s. Like
with a star.
You could almost see the like dance leotard on the ankles, And then I feel like she continues to adapt, and that like writers kind of lost track of it in the Jim Lee era because she didn't really get a Jim Lee costume. Like he redesigned her for the One Mojo arc, but it wasn't like a Jim Lee costume. But
Correct.
then I loved what they did with her in the Utopia era, which was this very kind of Lady Gaga era in terms of pop music. And she got this very sleek redesign with like steel in the middle of her costume instead of a cutout. And you know what? I don't know that any of them are very functional, but here's the point. Dazzler's not meant to be a functional character. She's a pop star. She's the one of the most famous mutants in the world. And she should always like look like she's part of her era. So the disco costume, the athletics costume, and then the 2010s costume, I just love when Dazzler looks like a pop star of the era. She look like, this is so like Olivia Newton-John physical video, you know, like it evokes a very specific image, and I love that about Dazzler.
Wait, didn't she have one costume that has a star on her over her eye or something?
Yeah, like well, she often does a lot of face makeup-y things, which is very like now Lady Gaga. Well, I guess Lady Gaga's like old now, and there's some teeny bopper that does it. I don't know, but anyway, but like when Lady Gaga first came out, I was like, for years and years, everybody had said, "Oh, Dazzler's Kylie Minogue, Dazzler's Madonna." But when Lady Gaga came out, I'm like, "This is Dazzler!" Like it just felt like finally. So Dazzler's my number one, although my honorable mention has to be to Mr. Sinister, because when you have those blue and red and white costumes, they can just look so terrible. Like it's just too much. It's too many primary colors all at once, and it can look lame, or it gets very American flaggy, you know? And Sinister's big shredded cape, as Fariha was just intimating, it's so classic. And there's a lot of characters with that shredded cape, but none of them look better than him. And then in more recent times, when they've the way they've gone back and transformed him for the Victorian era with the top hat and the three-piece suit and the vest, and then his more kind of even more over the top looks that he's had in DOX, I just think that his character design is such that you can bend it in any direction and you always read it that that's a Mr. Sinister character design, even if he doesn't have the cape. And I can't think of him ever looking bad, honestly. Well, even when an artist gets it wrong and you're like, that's not Mr. Sinister's costume, it actually still usually looks good.
Well, Hickman agrees with you. Didn't he write the issue of him loving cape?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. But hold on. But his skin tone, is it his mutation or it's a makeup? Like, you know, the
he's not a mutant except for this one. Except for this one.
Oh, now he's a mutant. He wasn't a mutant.
No, he had a normal skin tone back in the Victorian era. If you you're a subscriber to Crushing Comics, there's a Mr. Sinister guide coming very soon, possibly before this episode's out. So that is some of our favorite X fashion of all time. Clearly, we couldn't get to every character with a great outfit. We didn't even talk about Jean's Phoenix outfit or any other like super iconic outfits. So please sound off in the comments below. Who are your favorite X-Men outfits of Dawn of X? Who are your favorite looks of all time? And which characters have evolved the best over time? We'd love to hear what you have to say below. Thank you so much for watching. Tyler, Fariha, thank you so much for joining me for this super fun discussion.
Thanks for having us.
And we will be back later this week with a look at the next chapters of X of Swords for This Week in X. So please subscribe, continue to tuning in to us here on Crushing Comics.
See you soon.